One Punch Man, a review. Let's go. One Punch Man, a weird show from top to bottom. It began as an independent project in 2009, a self-published webcomic, and it became wildly and internationally successful. The creator is known as One, and his casual style and amazing premise took the world by storm. The world of entertainment seems to operate on the idea that shows, anime, and live action alike are similar to investing on a stock exchange. You put an X amount of money in a project, and by the end of the fiscal year, you will have Y amount of profit. That sounds great and makes perfect sense if you work in economics. Unfortunately for those people, when art is concerned, especially shows and anime, much like in real life, things don't always work out as planned. When you take your first look at the original One Punch Man webcomic, Wampa Man, you see that art is very crude and casually drawn. If you show that to an investor, they would laugh and get you thrown out of the office. Luckily for One, it was not an investor who made One Punch Man from a webcomic into an insanely popular franchise. It was his fellow artist, Yusuke Murata. He was a great fan of the webcomic and offered One a partnership where Murata will be the manga artist and One will write the story. A match made in heaven was born. Their manga started publishing in 2012. With Murata's art bringing a whole new level to One Punch Man, also bringing a whole new level to Tatsumaki and Fubuki, definitely the better sister. It appears that Murata's talent was the edge that One needed in order to make One Punch Man a worldwide phenomenon. By 2020, manga has sold over 30 million copies, and 2 seasons of anime were produced. So, with a huge hit on their hands, how does this fantastic pair of creators proceed with their masterpiece? They start to slack off and neglect it. One is also the creator of Mob Psycho 100, and that project routinely takes time away from creating One Punch Man. Murata, on the other hand, is a perfectionist, almost to the point of insanity, where he draws, redraws, remasters, reissues, and redoes almost every goddamn panel in the manga he himself has been drawing for years. As a result, fans suffer, and the project itself is not reaching its full potential. Add to that critiques that the story has turned into Dragon Ball Z, but with Saitama in there, and you can see the writing on the wall. One Punch Man is a project that never would have even started if a traditional money-grubbing committee or a publishing house were involved, given the crudeness of the webcomic. But, ironically enough, once it got popular, now it desperately needs a money-grubbing committee or a publishing house to keep the creators in check, the show going, and appease the expectations of its millions of fans. Sometimes soulless corporations do have their positives. If they were wholly in charge in this case, we would get more chapters and continuation of the narrative, instead of getting the 5th revision of Tatsumaki's upskirt. But what is the thing that made the original webcomic so popular? Well, simply put, comedy and premise. Saitama, the main character, is the strongest person in their world, so ridiculously strong that he defeats all enemies in one punch. That's it. In this story, there are no risks and no stakes. Saitama is the strongest, and he will defeat the enemy without fail. Except for that one mosquito that was buzzing in his room. That was a bit of a challenge. Making a story with no stakes and no risks is, ironically enough, a highly risky move to make. Now, knowing that, How can you create an interesting and gripping narrative when you have a hero who is Superman on steroids? The answer is in one's clever writing and design of the characters. Saitama is extremely likable as a person. He is opposite to Goku's, Naruto's, and Ichigo's of the anime world. He minds his own business. He collects coupons. He looks forward to a supermarket sale. But not only that. Unlike previously mentioned shonens, Saitama is not on his path to become the very best, like no one ever was. Saitama's story is what comes after you've completed that path, something Goku, Naruto, and Ichigo are yet to accomplish in their respective stories. So basically, One Punch Man is a deconstruction of a superhero genre and shonen tropes, and it is amazingly funny in the process. Since we can have no real stakes while Saitama is around, most of the plot happens while he is off screen. This, naturally, leads to plenty of side characters, all of which must be written very competently in order for this shtick to work. And one doesn't disappoint. Starting with Genos, written as a typical cyborg superhero with a typical tragic backstory and a revenge plot. Once he realizes how absurdly strong Saitama is, he becomes his student. All his tropes fade away when he is with Saitama, and we can see the face of a typical hero archetype we rarely get to see, and it leads to plenty of humorous moments. The rest of the characters, mainly from Hero Association, are similar in design. They are parodies of various superhero tropes. Seeing their reactions and chemistry evolve when Saitama waltzes into their lives is probably the biggest strength of this show. The look on Fubuki's face once she realizes that she can't even touch Saitama, even though she is an extremely powerful ESPer, and her consequent change in character were my personal favorite. Murata is especially keen on redrawing panels, including Fubuki and Tatsumaki, the ESP sisters, for some unknown reasons. Maybe because they are French. Yeah, probably that. Or he's a perv. Anyway, King is this show's version of Mr. Satan from Dragon Ball Z, and astoundingly enough, he is not annoying. He is fun and provides a good counter to Saitama's outlook on life. So, Saitama is excellently written and envisioned as a protagonist. Side characters are likable and absolutely crucial in serving their purpose of world building and stake rising. What about the antagonists? Once again, one writes the main antagonist of the first part of the show, Garo, as a deconstruction of a typical villain. Garo is a human being, but ever since he was a kid, he wanted to side with the monsters and fight on their side. He chooses that not because he is inherently evil. No. When he was a kid, he wanted to side with the monsters because he thought it was unfair for one monster to fight a team of superheroes. So, Garo has moral principles, honor, empathy, even for monsters. And villains in shonen stories basically never have those qualities. All this makes for a very compelling character who plays his role as an antagonist to Saitama perfectly, even though Saitama has no idea who Garo even is. One Punch Man is a deconstruction of many tropes, and it is neatly woven together in a nice action comedy. This show has a core pattern that repeats basically every arc, and it goes something like this. An immense threat to the city or world has appeared. While that happens, Saitama is buying radishes. Side characters freak out in the face of danger, with heroes dutifully pondering how to deal with the grave threat. Saitama is still buying vegetables he found on discount. A prolonged battle takes place, showing us just how powerful the enemy is, while heroes get absolutely trashed, most often Genos and Moomin Rider. By the way, Moomin Rider is probably one of the best characters in the show, bar none. At this point, when the destruction of the world is all but ensured, Saitama jumps in and smacks the big baddie with, you guessed it, one punch. The threat is gone. Someone else gets the credit, while Saitama goes home to cook vegetables he bought earlier. On paper, this may seem repetitive and maybe even kinda pointless, but in execution, it is amazing to behold. We get a long and detailed wind-up, depicted in the suffering of the side characters to defy the threat. We get several episodes worth of tension and build-up, and it all gets released at once and resolved in one magical and profoundly satisfying smack. Saitama punches the baddie, everyone is in awe, and the audience can sit back and light up a cigar. This core pattern is repeated many times in the show, and for me, it never gets old. It is indeed that much satisfying to see the punch that makes everything better, or several punches, as was in his fight with Boros. Aside from excellently designed side characters, this is the greatest strength of One Punch Man, this core loop of tension and release. No one man has one punched like Saitama, and no one man ever will. Saitama is a hero, and he is the strongest there is. He wants to help people, and then go home and have a peaceful dinner without anyone bothering him. In a way, he is a tragic hero. He wants a challenge, a fight in which he could go all out. But the very premise of the story forbids this from ever happening. It's like watching a show where Yagami Light wants to become a Super Saiyan. It just won't happen because the story is set up in a way that it never can happen. But maybe, just maybe, that will be the challenge Saitama was looking for all along. Maybe he will be a character strong enough to rise up from the pages of the manga and punch some sense into his creators and make them write a proper ending in a timely schedule. Saitama versus his mangakas. Now that is the fight that would be fitting challenge for our One Punch Man. But from the looks of things, this fight will almost certainly be the one fight that Saitama is sure to lose. On that happy note, that's it about One Punch Man. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Check out other videos on the channel. We do a lot of anime content. That's it. See you next time. Bye bye.